it comes to mental health. So we want to be trending up over time. And in order to trend up, there's a couple of things that need to happen. First, we need to assess ourselves accurately. Are we assessing ourselves and taking time to sit back and actually look at where we are? It's not about how we feel. Man, I feel pretty good today. I feel pretty tired today. I feel pretty down today. That's irrelevant. That's day to day. You'll have good days and you'll have bad days. It's irrelevant. It may not be irrelevant in regards to your struggle, but it's irrelevant when it comes to your trend line. And so it's not about individual days. I have good days and I have bad days. I have days where I lay on my office floor sometimes because I'm overwhelmed with life. And then I have days where I'm out there just killing it and making gains and progress in my relationships and in my life and with my family and my team. So first we have to assess ourselves, and we have to assess ourselves objectively. Second, we have to make a plan based on that assessment. And so we have to look at where we are, and we have to have a plan in order to trend up. And the plan is nothing without implementation. So we have to implement that plan, which is often the hardest part for some of us. So we have to assess ourselves. We have to make a plan, and then we have to implement that plan. We have to be trending up over time. And it only happens with intentionality, never by accident, or rarely by accident, and certainly not by accident long-term. And so as we look at this is when I said earlier that it was irrelevant that day to day we have ups and downs. We are looking at the trend line. What that really means is that we don't have to win every battle. And so as we're implementing our plan, as we're assessing our health, we don't have to win every battle. We can fail. We can make mistakes. We can have really, really bad days. But are we trending up? If we are, we're winning the war. If we're trending up, we're winning the war on mental health rather than focusing on the individual battles. And the individual battles, especially when we're struggling with mental health, have a tendency to drag us down. We can really fixate and spiral based off of single ideas or single events or single bad days. And so every organization has an assessment that they use. The Air Force uses their 4 pillars. The 4 pillars are mental, spiritual, social, and physical. And those aren't bad. In Giant, I think we have one that's much better, and I wish it would be adopted across the Air Force, across the Department of Defense as a whole. We want every service member to thrive. That's our thing. And I think this tool, the Giant tool, the Peace Index, is a far better tool than the 4 pillars. And I'm going to walk you through the assessment. And the goal is that by the end of this episode, by the end of this video, you'll have at least one thing that you can do right now in the short term in order to start to increase your mental health. So let's start with the first one, purpose. So purpose, score of 1 to 10, and this is just based on how you feel. Think about the purpose that you have in this life. Are you living for something greater than yourself right now? And I know that might sound weird. Let's talk about it a different way. Are you excited by the work that you do? Does your work excite you? Are you excited by something that's coming up in the future, some project that you're working on? Are there things at work in your purpose, in your life that wake you up in the morning that you're excited to be a part of? Now we're going to talk about place. When we think about place, we're thinking about your house, we're thinking about your work, we're thinking about your community, thinking about all of those places, your home and your office and your work. Do you have peace there? Is your home full of peace or full of conflict? Is your work full of peace? Is it full of conflict? Do you feel safe there? Do you belong there? Do you feel like you belong at work? Do you feel like you belong at home with your family? Do you feel like you fit in, that they're your people? That's place. Now we're going to do provision. So on a scale of 1 to 10, think about provision. Do you live within your means? Are you spending more than you earn? Do you live within your means? Do you have enough money to stretch through to the next paycheck, or are you struggling every paycheck to make ends meet? Do you have to wait to buy bread? Because in these days, like I understand the answer to this might have been, yeah, I'm living within my means 6 months ago. And now with everything going on, some of us are finding ourselves that the dollar doesn't stretch as far as it used to. Are you investing in your future? Is your wealth growing over time? Is your family's net worth growing over time? Are you saving for retirement? Are you saving for something in your life, for vacation, whatever it is? Are you investing in your future? And then last, are you outrageously generous? And when I say outrageously generous, like I really do mean Dave Ramsey style outrageously generous. Do you ever go out and tip the bill? Does that ever happen in your life? It is one of the greatest experiences I ever have with my family is when we get good service, and I don't like to talk about these things, but we tip the bill sometimes. And if the service, and I cannot tell you the number of wait staff that have come out of the building telling us that we made a mistake on, because we never want them to know until we left, right? So we try to hide it, and then we run out of the building basically and leave as quickly as we can. And then we tip the bill, and often they'll come out and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, that wasn't the tip part. You put the bill in the tip." I'm like, "No, that's for you. We wanted you to have it because you're amazing." I cannot tell you the number of people that cry. I can't tell you the number of people that chase us out of the building trying to tell us that we made a mistake. I tipped someone only a 20 once. The bill was like $11, and I tipped someone a 20 because I was eating with friends, but we did separate bills. And they chased me out with the $20 bill in their hand. And when I told them that was their tip, they actually cried over $20. That's how much it meant to them. Often, if you have money in your account of any kind, you're doing better than a lot of people that you encounter. And we know from studies that generous people are more attractive, generous people are happier, generous people are healthier. Are you outrageously generous? I know I'm lingering on this one, but it's so important. Gratitude and generosity. So those 3 questions. Are you living within your means? Are you investing in your future? Are you outrageously generous? Where would you say that you are with that right now? 1 to 10. Next is your physical health. Your physical health. This one is really, really simple. Just think 3 items: food, sleep, exercise. Are you eating well? I don't mean necessarily calorie count, although that's part of it. Are you eating? Think about you're investing in your future. Are you negatively declining in calories or pot? Are you eating more than you're spending? Yeah, we'll say that. Are you eating more than you're spending calorie-wise? Are you going up? Are you going down on the scale? And I know the scale, it's body fat percentage really that we're looking at, not necessarily weight. Weight's irrelevant to a great extent. But are you eating? What does your diet look like? Are you getting fruits and veggies and all those things that you should be doing? When was the last time you had a salad? What does your diet look like? How many Monster Energy drinks are you pounding? Right? What does your diet look like? Exercise. They say 3 times a week to maintain, 4 or 5 times a week to advance. How are you doing with your exercise? Is your cardio up? Are you skipping leg day? What does that look like? Right? Are you actually improving over time with your physical health? So looking at your physical health, diet, exercise, sleep, 6 to 7 hours, they say, is kind of the bare minimum. All of us have different levels of sleep that we need. When my sleep machine's working, 6 hours is plenty for me. But, where are you? And are you tired? Do you have energy to give to your family? Do you have energy to spend on yourself at the end of the day? And I think that that's a big part of that is sleep. So diet, exercise, sleep, 1 to 10, where are you at? Diet, exercise, sleep, your physical health. And then last is the people in your life. So on a scale of 1 to 10, do you have people in your life that love you and invest in you and care deeply for you? And do you have people that are exactly the same, that you love, that you care deeply for, that you invest in, that it's a joy for you? That if they said, "Man, my tire just flew off, I need somebody to come out and bring me a jack," would you be just excited to go and bless them and help them? You need those people in your life. You need people in your life that you thrive when you give unconditionally to them. You have to have that. And this is a harder problem to fix if it doesn't exist in your life. So you've got to work on it. But I love you. Do you have people that support you when you need it? And do you have people that challenge you? Those 2 giant words, the support challenge matrix. Do you have people that support you and challenge you? Do you have people that you support that you challenge? So love, support, challenge, relationships. Do you have those things? Are they in abundance in your life? Are you overflowing? So scale of 1 to 10, where would you place those in your life? So now you should have 5 different scores. And this is kind of weird what I'm going to ask you to do now, but I'm going to ask you to take those scores and I want you to add them all up. So I'm looking at my paper right here in front of me for those of you watching the video. So I add up all of my scores and I come up to 36. So it's 36 out of a possible 50, right? Because each of them could be 1 to 10. So I end up with a 36 out of 50 or a 72. If I was to multiply that by 2, 72 out of 100. So I've got 36 out of 50 or 72 out of 100. So I have 2 solid 9s. And then I have a 5 and a 6 that I threw into the mix as well. And so the 5 and the 6 drag me down just a little bit. And so as I'm looking at my scores now, you've got your score. I can now look at that objectively and say, well, I'm a 72 out of 100. And I can compare that to a year ago if I keep track of these. I can compare that to 2 years ago. I can compare that to 5 years ago if I've got trend data. I can compare it to last month, last quarter, last week if I'm doing this regularly. And it's really important that you do. And so we do this regularly and we can start to develop a trend line both in individual areas and in the total area as a whole. So this is huge. And if you can do this, then you can start to make a plan. So what is your lowest score? My lowest score right now is in provision and people. Think about what is one thing you can do